Welcome to the Chris and Sam podcast. Pull up a bar stool and join us for a random conversation, guaranteed to make you think or your money back.
Hey Chris, how's it going?
Hey Sam, how are you today?
Good. This is our almost end of year. Well, it is the end of year podcast. I think this will be the last one for 2014.
It's the lucky 13th, isn't it?
It is too. Yes.
So how is everything going?
Everything's been going good. The other day I went to the jazz company's Christmas show that my daughter's involved in, which is...
The jazz company, what is that?
Sorry, dance company.
Oh, it's a
she
dance
does jazz
company.
ballet. But,
right, got you.
Yeah, next year she wants to do hip-hop, she told me. So that was pretty cool.
Cool. How old is she again?
Almost 7.
That'd be cool.
And the show goes on forever. It's a very long show, and they have a lot of people, a lot of dancers.
So is it for all the kids?
No,
dancing?
It's for everyone.
Everybody, so all ages dancing.
Yeah. Most of them are young people.
Yeah.
And some of the dancers, I have no idea what type of dance it is. Like, if you ask me, I don't know if it's contemporary or what it's supposed to be. They're just fluffing around on the stage, to be honest. It was pretty good, and they...
So you're a proud daddy, though?
Oh, yeah, always. That's
Yeah.
good. They had they have a memorial certificate trophy thing that they've handed out this year. And last year they had a tribute for this girl. And I think maybe it must have been about a year and a half ago. And this story just sticks with me. It sticks with me a lot. And it's really sad. It's a sad story. She was a dance student, and she was, I'm just going to guess here, maybe 12, 13?
Right.
10? I don't know, something like that. And she was at home, and her older sister was babysitting her, and was giving her dinner, and she choked to death on a sausage.
Crap.
Yeah, not good. And the sister couldn't help her, and they couldn't save her, so.
That's why you don't leave kids...
No, that's right. And I don't think she was like, and she was, like I said,
I nearly choked to death as a child. Well, I think I was about 11 or 12.
Oh, right.
And it was around the dining table, like,
wow. Yeah.
I was there and nobody could help me.
Yeah.
And it was a long string of bacon.
Oh.
And it went down my throat, but it was still, in my mouth, if you know what I mean. And it got stuck.
I've got a story about almost choking to death.
And, and I'm like, I can't breathe because of course your, esophagus is open and your air pipe's closed, right?
Yeah.
That's how it works, I think. Yeah. And I was totally choking. Somebody was smacking me on the back. I don't know, mum or whatever. I don't know, but I couldn't cough it up. I ended up putting my own fingers down my throat and managed to get the end of it and pull it out, but
my story is very, very similar. Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
Eating. Used to have my tongue pierced, and the squid ring wrapped around my tongue stud and got stuck to it, and I swallowed. So I've got this thing halfway down my throat, wrapped around a tongue stud in my tongue, and I started choking, and no one knew what was going on, and because you can't verbalize, what's going on. And I did exactly what you did, and I ended up putting my fingers down my throat, grabbing it, pulling it back up, and then I had to undo the tongue stud and pull it out, and try and remove it from that. It was pretty scary. It was a bit weird.
Yeah, it's scary as hell. And I can't remember how old I was, but I was quite young. It would have been between 7 and 10, I think.
Yeah.
It's a scary thing, and it stays with you. I guess it's a human experience. I guess most people have had that experience.
I guess so. And the lesson to learn is make sure you chew your food thoroughly.
Yeah. Or become a vegetarian.
You could. I think you could. Yeah, you're only saying that.
No, I'm just saying that. I'll just wind you up.
So that's basically what's happened recently, and looking forward to Christmas, and got everything organised for that. And if you haven't listened to it, check out episode 12, the one before this, and that's when we talk about New Zealand Twitter Secret Santa and what we got and what the worst presents were for 2014.
Yeah, and if you look at our Twitter account, you'll be able to see the crap photo that Sam took, and the great photo that
you can check out the photos on the website or on the Facebook page.
So
they'll be all over the place. So the other thing that we decided we were going to talk about, and this is because this is the world's most popular podcast.
Is that right? I actually had heard that it was. I read an article that said it was head of the revival of podcasts.
Yeah, it's had over 5 million downloads.
Oh, wow.
And
I know a lot of people that have. So Sam put me onto. We're talking about Serial, of course.
Yep.
Sam put me onto it, and I mentioned it. Actually, when I was helping Kim move down south, I put on Facebook or something, Serial is my new crack. I listened to 3 episodes this morning while I'm waiting for everybody to wake up. Funny thing is, everybody's in the other rooms waiting for everybody to wake up. So no.
Ah, very good.
But anyway, and I had a couple of friends that I didn't know would listen to it, going, no, I'm right into it as well.
So, if you haven't listened to it, go and find it. Serialthepodcast.com is the website. Look for Serial, and it's Serial. Not cereal as in breakfast food. Make sure you check it out. You will love it. It's 12 episodes long. They've all been published now, and you can binge listen to everything.
So you've got to listen to them in order. You have to start.
You have to
from the
listen
beginning.
to order, and if you don't want spoilers, just stop listening to us right now. Go and get it, listen to it, and then come back to our podcast, of course.
Yeah.
Where we'll talk a bit more about it.
Yeah, and there's more information coming out that's come out since that. But you want to give them the precis of what it's about.
Yeah, a high school student of Muslim heritage, but an American, gets convicted of murdering his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
That's the gist of it.
And
he's been in prison for the last 15 years.
And a journalist / podcaster decides to look into it. She gets asked by his sister and says, there's a chance that this guy's been wrongfully convicted. But then she goes through the facts, and it's did he or didn't he? And this is where the spoiler alert comes in, because now we're going to get into our own interpretations, and we're going to get into that.
And the bits and pieces.
So if you haven't listened to it, now's the time to switch off.
Because A, we'll spoil some of it for you, and B, it probably won't make much sense, to be honest.
No.
So go and listen to it. We'll put a link in the show notes, and probably on the Facebook page and wherever else we want to put it.
All right, now the losers have left. And only the smart people are still there. All right, so what do you reckon? Did he do it? I mean, I've got to start with that question, right?
I know, that was the question I was going to ask you. You to and fro when listening to the podcast, I think, well, I definitely did.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I don't think he did it. That's what I'm going to say. I definitely think he shouldn't have been convicted.
Yeah,
because that's the difference.
That is the big thing, and so I was going to say, I don't even want to say one way or another.
There's
whether
just
he
so
did
many
or didn't,
holes and weird things they
but
didn't check.
there's no way they had beyond reasonable doubt.
No, definitely not.
There is no way
There's
was
no
beyond
way.
reasonable doubt.
It was like 2.5 hours deliberation, after a 6-week trial.
Oh, they got bombarded. From the sounds of it, they got bombarded by that cell phone dude.
Yeah. And the prosecutor. These are something. So if you're listening to, if you really like the Serial podcast, you actually want to get on Reddit and go to the Serial subreddit, and there's just so much more information on there.
Okay, so for those of us like me that are not really au fait with Reddit, you're going to put a link to that subreddit in the show notes.
Yes, I'll do.
But B, how do you find a subreddit?
You just do a search.
So you go to Reddit and just search for
and then you'll see the subreddit names, and then you can click on it, and then you can subscribe to that subreddit, so you've always got it when you've got an account.
See, I'm learning stuff.
You are
every day. Oh, sorry,
that was
the table.
So in the podcast, Don was the new boyfriend.
Yep.
What you may not know is his whole family are police.
Oh.
So when they came around and spoke to him and said she's gone missing, he knew, due to his family's and police work, that the two most likely suspects were him and the old boyfriend, and he had to account for his time straight away. So he knew where he was and everything. So his alibi was really good. And that's not to say he was lying, it's just he knew how it worked.
Yeah. And that was interesting, because they did talk about that. The second last one, I think, or the
Yeah.
last one. I can't remember which one. But, and because she sort of said, Don can account for his time. As soon as he heard that, he went back but they didn't mention the police connection.
No. This is a Reddit thing.
And then they
that's come
sort of said, with Adnan, so why didn't he think like that? Well, I was a paranoid little kid. So
Yeah.
at 17, I probably would have been quite anal about that sort of thing. I would have done it, but most of the people I know wouldn't.
You have to realise he's 17. He's pretty much a stoner.
Yeah, well, that's
And
the other thing, yeah.
He had the full confidence that he hadn't done anything wrong. It'll just work itself out.
Yeah.
That's one point of view. So it's a bit crazy in that respect. What was the other thing?
What happens in the States when they do release somebody?
After they've served their time?
You know how New Zealand, it's like, oh, we wrongfully convicted you. Here's Here's $1 million for the time you served.
I think they have to sue the corrections facility people, possibly.
They got to sue somebody, but
that's not like an automatic thing.
yeah, I don't even know if they can really get the money, to be honest, because
No. So I can't remember if it was in the podcast or if I read it on Reddit. Did you know that Don, for some reason, didn't know, obviously it said in the podcast, he didn't know any of that stuff had happened in the trial? Like, the first, he didn't know that, he didn't know about Jay until he heard the podcast.
Yeah, I think.
And some people said that was really strange because he was involved in this court case quite a bit. And even though he obviously wouldn't have been in on certain sections in that, at the time, 15 years ago, you think he would have known about it?
I don't know. I don't know that you would.
So
my very limited stuff I know about court, and it's extremely limited to being a juror like 3 times or something. Everything does seem to be quite isolated, so I would imagine that you could have day 1 they dealt with somebody, day 2 they dealt with Jay, day 3 they dealt with Don, and so their paths might not have crossed. So, and there's a media blackout. Usually,
true.
You don't.
So when they brought him in, the prosecutor, who's that semi-nasty sort of guy, he said to Don, I want you to basically say he's a creep.
That's right. He said that in the podcast.
Yeah, and they did that twice.
Yeah, and he went...
And he said, no, he's not. In my dealings with him, he was a nice guy.
So it sounds like Don's straight up and honest.
I think Don's sweet. Jay's definitely involved.
Oh, Jay's... Well, he by his own admission, he's involved, but how much is he involved? I mean, early on, I was like, Jay's got to be... good for this. He must have done it. But then later on, I'm like,
the problem is because he didn't get convicted of anything, there's no records of what they asked him in court and things like that, in recordings. And nowadays, when they do a police investigation and they interview everyone, they record everything. But for him, when they were doing the recorded interviews, there's a whole, like that investigator said, there's that whole extra hour or 3 before they press record where they were possibly coaching him to say what they want him to say.
Yeah.
So did he actually know where the car was, or did the police tell him? It was a question.
Yeah.
That him and his...
Oh, hang on. Really? I never thought of that.
That's a question that came up. Him and his friend Jen have got differing stories. And she didn't go into the police until he went and said, hey, this is happening. And she lawyered up and she went in and she was telling a story. Boom, 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 boom. And they don't know potentially if she was making up half the story and she got it wrong compared to Jay's version, because there's really big discrepancies in that.
Yeah.
So I think there's another person involved in this whole thing.
I would agree with that.
There's a person mentioned in one podcast, and I can't remember for the life of me what his name was, but he's some sort of drug dealer. Because remember, Jay's selling dope. So he must be getting the drugs from something. He's getting the marijuana from somewhere.
Yeah.
So somewhere along there, I think there's a shady third person. Because Jay is absolutely afraid of someone. And people were saying, why is he afraid of someone that's already in jail? Even now, when she tracked him down, they said, when someone that has been in trouble with the law a lot, and him and Jen have both been in trouble since 15 years ago, and he's been done for domestic violence and all sorts of things, he said, well, who did it then? Who did it? I think is what he said on the podcast.
Yeah,
someone said,
right.
When you've dealt with the law, they're very, very good at setting up a set of questions so the other person will ask them. So he wasn't saying who's doing it, as easy as it was. This person theorized that he was actually waiting for her, the reporter, Sarah, Sarah, isn't it?
Yeah.
He was waiting for her to
feed something
because
back
he doesn't know what she knows.
Yeah.
So he has to set the scene, and then because she didn't follow that up anymore, he
like a
just cut
con
it.
man. What do they read your get in touch with your dead relatives? And stuff. Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. No,
Another interesting thing is someone they've basically said the Crown or the prosecution's timing of her death. Why is it so specific? She could have been held captive for 3 weeks.
Yeah, that
she didn't have to have been killed that day. There could have been another person. They could have taken her away.
How long was it before her body was found again? I forget.
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
I think it was.
Yeah, so there's no way they've got a really isolated time of death.
No. There's something really creepy, and I'll show you that later. On the morning of the day she disappeared, they did a TV interview with her for sports.
Oh.
And they've dug it up on YouTube, and you can watch her talking to her. Watch her talking on the day in the clothes that they found her.
In that last episode, they did say she got interviewed that morning, and there was a note in the car for Don to watch the thing on TV.
That note for Don's really weird.
It was a bit odd.
It was worded a bit strange because he had no idea what it referred to, and it was something like "I'll catch you up later," but he hadn't seen her that day. He was going to see her later, so it was like she'd already seen him.
Yeah.
And the people have been, there's so many theories going around.
But you might say, I might catch you later. If you haven't seen
I can't remember the exact wording. It's when you listen to it, it's really strange. The phone call to Nisha, that's the biggest problem for a lot of people.
Yeah.
They are pretty certain it's a butt dial.
Yeah.
And
a pocket call, as we say in our end of the world, to be honest.
The thing I find interesting is, at that whole point in time, they know where the cell phone is. Pretty much. It knows what cell phone tower it's pinging.
Yeah.
Anyone could have had that phone.
Yeah.
A third person could have had that phone.
Yeah.
Not either of them two. I don't know. There's so many questions. If you check out this...
There are so many holes. And that's why I think, he's got to be... they've got to turn it over and say, look, he was wrongfully convicted.
They're hoping to do that with the Innocence Project.
Yeah.
And they're going down the track of
this random guy that was supposed to be out at that time.
A serial killer / bad person.
That, to me, that's like the longest long shot that you can attempt. If it comes off, it'll be amazing.
But someone actually put it in a question on Reddit, I think it was, and they said, that's got to be the world's longest shot. And they said, no, that's why that woman said, think of the big picture. They just need something. And
so that's the excuse to test
the other
DNA.
items.
And then when they test the DNA and it doesn't do that, but it doesn't link to Adnan as well, that's another basis to get rid of it.
See, I don't believe the whole...
That makes sense.
When they tested her car, they found his one thumbprint on a map book. There's... I don't know. But DNA had been around for about a year, but it hadn't been widely used.
Mm.
So there's just so many questions.
Now, hopefully there is some DNA material.
It's such a perfect case for that podcast. I don't know if they're going to be able to replicate it for season 2 to that goodness.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's a hard act to follow, and you're right, but it might have to be something a little bit different. And
I hope it will be, because I don't want it to follow that that path.
Yeah,
I was actually surprised at how long it takes for manual strangulation. That really surprised me. 5 to 8 minutes, or 3 to 8 minutes.
Where did you hear that?
It was in... I think it was on the podcast, or it was on Reddit or something.
Must have been in Reddit.
And the argument was because he was a trained EMT, which is an ambulance driver, and that's what he did for a job part-time, that he knew how to perform it or revive her. But what he actually did for a job was he just accompanied old people on a transfer to the hospital. Yeah. And people were arguing, well, a doctor knows how to do all this stuff, but it's, it's a bit far-fetched.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly had the potential to know, so that's cool. I mean,
I've got the potential to know because I've got a hand.
Yeah, I know. And I've done a lot of martial arts, and I've choked people out before. And so I've got the potential to know. But, I mean, he has more of a potential to know in that role than probably other people.
Yeah,
so,
and they were arguing that a lot of people were saying the strangulation is a personal, passionate, you have to know the person sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a really upfront. You've got to be either totally enraged off your face, like zoned out, drugged out, or, very, very emotional.
So there's a million questions to be answered, or not. There's people that haven't come forward to talk. They haven't heard from that Stephanie chick.
Yeah. And what about the Asia? That was weird.
That was very weird.
I mean, first of all,
but that comes down to that prosecution guy.
Yeah,
putting the hard word on them.
Yeah, but yeah, the fact when she said, "Oh no, I'm not helping you out," like that second trial or whatever.
Yeah,
that was pretty freaking weird, to be honest. But yeah, so no, it was fascinating podcast. Have you listened to This American Life?
No, I haven't, and they reference it every now and then on the Serial podcast, and there's like a couple of like top 5 episodes that people recommend.
Yeah. And
one of them is that Sarah talks to a used car dealership somewhere.
Yeah. And
I think the guy tried offering her a deal because people were like, get the deal. And it took me a while to figure out what they were on about. So I might have to check that out.
Yeah, because I listened to Alec Baldwin's podcast. What's it called? One More Thing? And Another Thing? Something like that. And he was interviewing Ira Glass from This American Life. And I was like, I know that name, Ira Glass. And it's because, that was the link in with Serial and with the other one you put me on to, which is Startup. So Startup, for those of you, totally different sort of thing. If you're much more business-minded, you'll really enjoy Startup. It's
very good.
It's very good. And we're going to sort of see what we can do about emulating some of their production skills in the future, I think.
Yeah. We won't talk too much more about that.
No, we're not. But I was so impressed with that. And so many other podcasts are, because I think that's a trend-setting podcast there,
it is
because Smart Passive Income, they've played with that format, and I think there's going to be a lot more people playing with that format.
There seems to be a lot more people taking up the podcasting sort of thing as well.
Why is that, do you think?
I don't know. I think it's
more convenient now with the smartphones.
Yeah, it's a lot more accessible for people.
Yeah, exactly. Accessible is the word. If you didn't have as many smartphones you just wouldn't do it.
Now you tell me after we've hooked up all this gear and got all this equipment sitting here.
Yeah. Oh, no. And that's the other thing. You can have all this gear. Like we've got Sam bought all this really cool gear that we've got here. And
it makes us sound a little bit better than normal.
Yeah. And don't want to toot our own horn, but we're doing this is a pretty good podcast.
We actually got some good feedback on the audio quality. So that was pretty cool, actually.
From some of my film buddies who are quite
pedantic with things.
Yeah.
Is that the word?
I was going to say fussy, but pedantic. Yeah, whatever you want to say. They're going to be listening to this, so I'm going to get my ass kicked. You know that, right?
Good.
So, yeah. But no, it's we've had some good feedback on the quality. So we're going to maybe have a bit of a play with format and stuff in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty good.
So, yeah. So, anyway, just before we wrap up, how was your year? Let's do a quick year in review.
Just having a quick think about what's happened. Actually, this year was pretty awesome, to be honest. At the start of the year, me and a guy named Tim Harris, we made some boats out of pumpkins.
And you were all over TV, and you were on 7 days, and you were even
mentioned in an advert for The Amazing Race Australia.
Oh, were you? Yeah. I missed that.
Yeah.
And you were also
John and Ben at 10 mentioned us.
Yeah, and there was a cartoon in the Herald.
There was a cartoon in the Herald.
Yeah.
That's
the big time, Sam.
That feels like so long ago.
Yeah,
but
I know.
it was only the start of this year, and that was really epic, and everything just fell into place really, really well at very short notice. So big thanks to everyone that helped out with that. Oh, I quit my job. That's right. The job that was sucking the soul out of me. And I started to hate it with a passion, and I can say that because I just don't care.
So you quit that, so that's a good thing.
It was great. I see people at that same place. I was actually talking to someone today about it. He hit the nail on the head. The problem is that they pay the people that work at this place quite well, and they know that, and they sort of just, wear people down. And it just got to the point where I said, nah. So I took a pretty semi-decent pay cut. I do something completely different now, and I quite like that. What else happened this year? I stuffed my back again, so that's a yearly occurrence at the moment, so I'm going to try and sort that out. And, started the podcast with Chris, which is pretty...
which is obviously a big thing for you.
Oh, no, it is. It's very cool.
It's great. I love this podcast.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, love it. So I think that was me real briefly.
Yeah,
what about you?
So my big thing... Oh, how long were you at your previous job then?
8 years.
8 years, yeah. So that was my big thing, obviously. Got made redundant at the beginning of the year, or March, actually.
See, that does... I keep thinking it's like 2 years ago.
I know. It feels like so long. And so, yeah, that was... Because I was still working when you did your pumpkin thing, because I couldn't come along because I was in Auckland for work.
Training.
Yeah. No, I was in Auckland for work that day. So anyway, which bugged me no end. But... so I finished up work, and I'd been there for 12 years.
Wow.
Well paid there. Got a decent redundancy, which put me out of eligibility for any sort of doles for months and months and months.
Yeah.
Which I never actually went back to. So that is an interesting thing. I actually must say I've learnt a lot about myself in that intervening time. I realised that I like going to work for the social aspect.
Yeah.
Is the people there? So that was cool. But the job was meh, I was making projects for me to do while I was there.
Yeah, that's never good.
And and so there's been a lot of redundancies.
I've lost some amazing people.
Oh, I know.
Like I don't know them like as well as you do, but I know them.
Yeah.
And I know some of the stuff they've done, and it's just like, whoa.
Yeah, they've just got rid of some really high-techy people.
Yeah, like a big brain drain.
Yeah, and one of the guys, Martin Harris, I don't think I've ever met him. I've worked with him on projects, on
cool.
audio and all that sort of thing. And it always made me laugh because his sign-off on his email was, "Your humble savant."
Ah, very good.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
But and he just knew everything about everything, and he's just been made redundant. So, anyway, so this is, my old company was Telecom. It's now Spark, of course, and it's going to have to do the bounce back and start getting into growth because it's been in cost cutting for quite a while. So that'll be an interesting thing. They'll need to get a new leader in to do that. But you just wonder if they cut too close to the bone, will they have the platform to launch forward,
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they go.
Yeah, anyway.
But not to worry, because you don't work for them
anymore. I don't work for them anymore. I sometimes act like I do. But yeah, so some things, run deep. But yeah, so I spend a lot of time doing not a lot, and I've got a couple of part-time jobs at the moment. Some money's pretty tight, but I really struggle with the idea of getting into another corporate role, because it'd have to be something I really want to do, and I just haven't seen anything like that.
Yeah.
So, want to go down the more entrepreneurial path with these, part-time jobs, backing up, just paying the rent, and see what else I can do, and so that's been good. But this podcast's been really cool, so I'm enjoying that.
Yeah, it's learnt a lot doing this, which is good.
And the other thing is filming. I've done quite a lot of stuff in film this year. We of course made it into the finals of Tropfest at the beginning of the year for last year's one, and that gave me a real taste for it. We did a little bit of work on the Star Wars thing, and we've done some stuff there. I even did my first little bit of acting. at least it's supposed to be acting. I don't know if it really.
You just grunt, don't you?
Yeah. You know, you'll see when you see it whether you can judge whether it's acting or not. I don't want to judge. I don't even want to watch myself. But so I'm not an actor. But, you know, things have been going quite well with the film side of things. And, of course, we've just entered with the Tropfest again. And I can tell you now that we are shortlisted for finals for next year, or, you know, this year's competition.
Yes.
We're shortlisted, so there's 25 people been in the shortlist. The final is 16 people.
Was that ringing?
That was ringing.
Oh, do you want to answer it?
No, I just turned it off.
Oh.
So, yeah, 16 finalists, and we will find out about that on between the 9th and 12th of January, whether we are in the finals. And Tropfest is Valentine's Day down
February the 14th.
February 14th down in New Plymouth.
Boulder
Did I ask if you wanted to come along?
You didn't specifically ask that. You just vaguely said you were going down there, I think.
All right. If you want to come down, it'll be quite good.
I am working, but I am going to try and work out what I can do.
Yeah. It's quite a good night. We're going to see if we're going to go down with the crew and we'll probably have a stay overnight so we can do all the after parties and then
Sounds good.
Particularly if we win. Woohoo.
Yes. So, looking forward to 2015. What's on the cards for you, you think?
I've got some projects on. So film projects. I've got a film that I'm producer for. We've got a lot of funding to do, and it's a short film. And so that's quite a serious deal. That's quite a big one. We're getting professionals in. It's not an amateur thing, so that should be quite cool. It's stretching me beyond my comfort zone, definitely.
Yeah.
We're working on the crowdfunding book, which I've mentioned before.
Yes.
I don't expect that we will have anything necessarily finished in 2015. Hopefully we'll get it to the point where we can get to the editor.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we'd launch it next year. We haven't really talked about the timing, but we're still in that whole collection and research phase at the moment, so it's just early days yet.
Yeah.
But I do want to move that and progress that along and get it to a decent sort of end game within the year. I've got another podcast thing that we want to do. We're going to do.
Yep.
But we won't talk about that now, but that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to. And
that'll be a bit different.
Yes, it's for a specific market, a niche market.
And you probably only hear Chris talk, really.
Yeah.
I'm doing more of the producing / editing on the behind the scenes.
And it's going to be an interview thing. So it's an interview style thing, so it won't be just me waffling on.
No, that's good.
Thank God for that.
I'm thinking of doing a podcast related to pumpkins.
Woohoo!
And that may sound a bit weird, but it's going to be an interview thing. So hopefully that'll work out well.
Yeah, so basically we're both going to do our own niche interview podcasts.
Yeah.
In the areas that we are interested in, so that'll be cool.
So that'll be interesting. I want to put together a product for the pumpkin growers.
That's right. Yes,
I've been working on that vaguely last year, and I've got the bare bones of that laid out. So that's good. And I've got a reasonably popular, very niche website that does reasonably well for visitors that I struggle with updating every month. I really need to get that sorted next year, so I'm going to work on that.
Yeah, we should. What we need to do is figure out how to do these things as a project that we can, put another layer on, so we're publishing as we're doing it, or podcasting over it about it as we're doing it, or something.
Possibly. Well,
the
trick is trying not to take too much on.
Yeah.
And next year I have to move house at some point, so that's fun.
Yeah,
I hate moving.
I know that sucks so much. I just don't want to move. I know what you mean. All right, so so that's my outlook for next year. Maybe do a little bit more socialising, because I realise I've got into my shell a little bit this year too. Work. I think.
But in saying that, if you'll definitely get the socialising within all the projects, hopefully.
That's
the plan.
Yeah, that is the plan. And of course, so I'm back at karate too, which is a big deal. That was my formative growing up thing that I did for 20 years, and then I had a 5-10 year break type thing, and now I'm back into it, and I'm feeling it after a grading. I didn't grade, but I was at a grading on Thursday, and my body is sore. Bit of fighting, a few bruises. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to getting back into that a little bit more in the new year. You got any fitness stuff this year coming in?
Maybe just... I need to work on it. That's all I'm going to say.
Get the back right. When the back's right.
No, the back's never right. I'm hoping I'll do a bit more mountain biking. Actually, I have to get it serviced. The back brakes decided not to work.
Yeah, that can be a problem.
Well, it's got disc brakes as well, so when it stops, it stops. But I can't work out if it's the pads or the disc, or I have to take it in. Good fun.
Cool. All right. Well, if there's anything you listeners want to hear from us in the new year, any questions you've got, any ideas you've got of things for us to discuss, anything that you go, wow, that's amazing, just tweet that out to us. Tag us in the tweet.
I think that's what I'll be working on as well, is just getting the podcast out there a little bit more.
Yeah.
We love doing the podcast, and it's not a very specific type of podcast. We do talk about all sorts of random things, and that's fine. That's how we want it, and that's how it's going to be. But hopefully we'll get some more interaction, more likes on the Facebook page, and more Twitter action for everyone.
We're not doing it totally for you. We're not doing it totally for ourselves. We're doing it because it's fun, and hopefully it's fun for the people that are listening. Otherwise they wouldn't be listening, right?
Yeah.
So that's all good. But my point is, it is what it is, and we're just going to keep enjoying it.
Yeah, it's great.
But yeah, your feedback, your ability, give us some ideas and stuff like that. We'd be more than happy to delve into topics of your interest.
Yeah, and we're hopefully going to get a few more guests on board. We're going to try and get the elusive Carl to turn up one day.
Yeah, old Lush Monster who was booked in like 2 months ago.
I only found out today he doesn't drive, so that's always helpful.
Yeah, I said I'd pick him up.
I know, but anyway, we're going to try and track him down and get him in here. And actually, because he's so hard tied down, we might have to record like 5 random episodes with him and then space it out over a year. We'll see.
Yeah, we might do something like that. Maybe we should have some alcohol on hand, because I think nothing gets the Lush Monster out like a few bevvies.
Yeah, you do.
Maybe some purple guanas. If we have some purple guanas, that'll attract him.
Oh, sweet. Okay, very good.
All right, so have a good New Year's, everybody.
Yeah,
and,
stay safe out there, and have a great time.
All right.
And we'll catch you in 2015.
Bye.
See ya.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll catch you next week. Don't forget to tell your friend.